This evening we would like to tell you a story. For you see, my friends, in stories there are sometimes the seeds of truth that cannot be spoken straight, but must be approached through what you would call the parable. Once there were two sisters. These two sisters were without husbands, for they had both lost them as years went by. Being alone in the world, they sought each other, loved each other, and lived together, taking care of each other and supporting each other in times of distress. As they reached the age of 70, both of them began to feel the failing senses of old age come upon them. One sister reacted by becoming somewhat bitter. She began to feel that she was indeed in a tragic situation and became less and less able to deal with the simple functions of her life and was melancholy indeed, awaiting for a death that she did not want, and living a life whose days and nights went slowly and sometimes fearfully. The other sister reacted in quite a different manner, for even in the same family, each individual child is a unique entity. The older sister began to think of the shortness of her remaining years. She began to realize for the first time that, although she had been of great assistance to her husband and to her children and to her sister, in her adult life she had narrowed her world until she was no longer of assistance to those beyond her doorstep, and she determined to crusade beyond her doorstep and see what she could see of the world and do what she could do for the world. And so this lady began to take a walk, just a short one around the block, and she opened her ears and she opened her eyes, and within a very few months, she had had conversations with many people, had talked about the Creator with confused children, had found from another one that there was a crying need in hospitals for visitors, had found from yet another friend she had met along her way that in prison those who sit in darkness have no visitors and quite often are grateful to speak with anyone, even a 70-year-old stranger. Taking her courage in her hands as though it were a precious gift, she did that which she had never done before, for she had been a timid woman, and where she was guided, she went. She sat by hospital beds where people were dying and talked to them. She came to prisons once a week and had friends that she made in that unlikely place. And on she walked, and soon the neighborhood began to know of her, and people came to her. One day, my friends, both women lay dying, for such is the end of the mortal life, and it will certainly happen to you all. And because they had been stricken by the same virus and were dying at the same time, it was possible for them to be in the same room when they went into the hospital for the last time. The older sister had so many clustered about her bed that she could not possibly count them or speak with them all, for she was very ill. She begged them, Please go Please go talk to my sister, for she is in great need of friendship and love. And some would go over to the sister's bed, introduce themselves, and try to speak words of comfort. But the younger sister was very bitter, and she could not accept the love of strangers. Go back to my sister, she would cry. She is the one you came to see. In the end, the sisters died, and as the older one died, she reached out to the youngest, and they were able to hold hands. The last words of the older sister were very simple. I love you, sister, she said. The friends still came, though there was an empty bed, and they clustered around the younger sister. And suddenly, for the first time, the younger sister understood that the legacy of love is an endless repetition and echo of that vibration in others. And as she died, her bitterness left her, and she was able to leave this plane in a vibration of love that her sister had finally been able to share with her. We ask you, my friends, to be so seated in your hearts that you can do those things which become before you to do in the name of the Creator and in the voice of love. In this vibration were you all made, and this you share, not only with those of your planet, but with all sentient beings throughout the universe, in all galaxies of your universe, and in many universes that fill the dimensions of the great creation. We are all one, my brothers and sisters. There will come before you things to do. You each have your own talents. They are each different and unique. You cannot be anyone but yourself, yet in your own way, you can be one who shows love. There are an infinity of ways to show love. It is your own judgment that will help you to know what your opportunities are, what you can and cannot do. But when you see an opportunity, my friends, turn it not down, but go forward. You will feel in your heart that which is right, and only can know the feelings of your heart. We ask only one thing. Instead of becoming bitter as the lessons of life hurt you and pain you physically, emotionally, and mentally, remain open to the healing power of love, which is best done, as we have always said to you, my friends, through daily meditation. It does not matter what type of meditation that you use. You may pray, you may read scripture or other holy works, and contemplate the truth of what you read. You may sit in silence, in passive meditation. You may engage in magical rituals, such as your so-called Holy Communion, and by that imagery find peace. But however, my friends, that you can become close to the one original thought that created all of us, to the one creator that is love. That is what you should do daily, for you cannot be a loving person by yourself. Humanity is very limited in its ability to love, for they have not, through the centuries as a planetary consciousness, spent a great deal of time in concentrating upon love, but rather in concentrating upon other things, such as the acquisition of goods, the acquisition of geographical territories, the acquisitions of people, and the disruption of humanity life in order to gain these goals. Thus, your planetary consciousness does not have love as its strongest suit. To get into contact with the infinite source of love that may be compared to the star body that is your sun, you must meditate and find within yourself that small part of yourself which is your real self and which is part of the original thought of love. Once you have found this, you can always deal with situations in such a way as to never betray that within you, which is your best. However, my friends, if you fail, do not reproach yourself, but go on and try again, for it is expected of a student of life that she will not be perfect in all of his or her examinations. Thus, encourage yourselves to seek again and yet again the peace of the presence of love. At this time, I would pause so that my brother Laetos may condition each of you in the room. If you will relax and request his presence, he will make himself known to each of you. I am Hatonn.